topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4TV.com. That's the number 4. In addition, we're on Facebook Live at Winning Business Radio. And, of course, we're going to be available after the live show in podcast form wherever you get your podcast content, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and the list goes on. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, to learn best practices, the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. Who are those others? Consultants, coaches, business owners, advisors, authors, entrepreneurs, people with some expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person I've ever talked to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, it's my mission to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow. Those are solopreneurs all the way up to small, medium-sized companies and way up to the Fortune 50. I've seen some of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around and with some who probably should have found other professions. In my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. And I like to think I've learned a lot from those experiences. So you're going to hear from me, but mostly you're going to hear from our guests. And today we have 2 specific guests, Lucky Papageorg, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Auto Body Association, and Matthew Ciaschini, President of the Massachusetts Auto Body. He's president of that association on the board of directors and co-owner of Full Tilt Auto Body and Collision in West Hatfield, Massachusetts. That's Western Mass. Here are their bios. As the executive director of the Massachusetts Auto Body Association, Lucky represents and advocates for independent collision repair professionals across the state. In his role, Lucky works closely with shop owners, industry stakeholders, policymakers, and insurers on issues impacting auto body businesses, including labor rates, technician recruitment and training, repair quality, and consumer safety. He's a frequent industry spokesperson and a trusted voice on the operational and economic challenges facing the collision repair industry in Massachusetts, with a focus on ensuring safe, proper vehicle repairs and a sustainable future for the trade. Matthew Ciaschini is president of that association, Massachusetts Auto Body Association. He's on the board of directors and co-owner of Full Tilt Auto Body and Collision. As you heard, he brings hands-on industry experience and a shop owner perspective to his leadership role, with a focus on strengthening independent auto body businesses and advancing repair standards worldwide. I've invited them on to discuss what I would describe as serious dysfunction within auto body regulations in Massachusetts, and we're going to get to that. But for now, Lucky and Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin.
Thank you for having us, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Owners, both at some point or another. At any rate, before we get to those problems, our listeners and viewers want to know about you guys. So, Matt, why don't you go first? Tell us about your family, where you go up, where you live.
All right. Well, I grew up in Western Mass. I grew up in a town called Northampton. Mm-hmm. A lot of people know that. Home of Smith College.
Yep. UMass.
Yep. So I grew up there, went to Hamp High, and went to college at Westfield State. Mm-hmm. Didn't know I was going to get into auto body at all. Had a brother that was in auto body in high school. Went to Smith Vocational in Northampton. Mm-hmm. and, went right into the career field right afterwards, right after high school.
Yeah.
A series of careers for me, kind of in and out of different things, fell backwards kind of into this, in the way that you do. And my brother was just starting a small body shop, and he needed some help. It was him and one other guy, and he had no business acumen, and I had done some management. And
so you weren't 8 years old playing with the Tonka trucks, as an auto body repair guy, right?
I would say I always was a car guy. Like I always loved cars. I knew, to do certain things. I wouldn't say I was as hands-on as like my brother was, but I soon assimilated.
Cool. Lucky, same question. How did you get into this business?
Well, I kind of backed into it myself as well. I went to college. I have a BS in biology. I was a pre-dental major.
Wow.
My path took me a different way while I was working at Bank of Boston. And then I ended up working for a rental car company, and I was delivering vehicles to collision shops. And I got very friendly with several of the owners or their underlings. Yeah. And I was looking for a change in what I wanted to do. One of the gentlemen suggested that I take an appraiser's course, which I did. In Massachusetts, you have to be licensed in order to write motor vehicle damage. I successfully passed that course back in 1988 and have been a licensed appraiser since. And I've managed some shops and had the good fortune back in 1990 of being approached to have the shop that I was managing at the time join what was then the Massachusetts Auto Body Association, just starting out. And it's grown since then. The person who invited me in since left that position, and I ended up becoming the executive director of the association back in mid 1990s, and took a little bit of a hiatus. And recently I came back in 2018.
Matt, tell us how you started your business. Did you start the business? I think you did, and with whom?
So I'm actually in business with my brother. We, like I said, he had started this small business, just had left a body shop that he was working at because he saw that he could possibly get the business, like that he was bringing a lot of business to that place, and he wanted to, see, like, can I go out on my own? And then it was about 18 months into that business. I was in a previous profession. I got laid off, and he was looking for someone to help. I had been in restaurant management, so I had a little bit of like business acumen, I would say. And he asked me to come in and help with the office. And then it was a struggling small business. I had some money set aside. I helped him out. We kind of bought in together, and next thing we knew, we were business partners within a year. And then we've grown now over the last 16 years to have about 20 employees and a much bigger body shop than what it started out to be.
Yeah. What are your specialties?
Wow, that's interesting. We're a collision shop, so we primarily operate as doing insurance collision work. We do obviously do customer pay and some custom work. Your body work, paint, and metal repair, as well as like some, other sort of, I would say, ancillary things. Like we have a little rental, like a little vehicle rental. But primarily, we focus on collision. And
this may be an unfair question, but I want to ask it anyway. What separates Full Tilt from other body shops?
I would say customer service, independence is also another thing. We don't operate under any insurance contract, and I know that can be a little confusing to people that don't understand.
Yeah, explain that.
So in our industry, you basically have what are considered direct repair programs. Those are called DRPs in our world. They technically don't exist in Massachusetts, but they do have programs. And what you do is you sign up for a program for an insurer. They basically make you sign to their parameters, whether it be their parameters of repair, their parameters of how much they pay per hour, labor hour, things they are willing to pay for to repair a car, things they aren't, things they might be part of a business that normal shops that are independent can operate and charge for. You're not allowed to. But with the kind of promise that they will shuffle you business without the need to advertise or have, or possibly not have the need to carry a reputation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there is obviously cost in advertising, so that can look appealing to people. It also can be a way that people have been doing business for a long time and seemingly is hard for them to get out of because it's a process that they've been dealing with for a long time. Yeah. We choose not to. We've dipped our toe in that world once, and we decided we will never do that again. We feel like we can repair people's cars to the original equipment manufacturer standard by being independent from the insurer. Meaning like we can do, if you own a Toyota, I can do what Toyota says to repair your car. I could prove it to the insurer and they should pay the bill.
I'm thinking we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
As we get to the problem side, right? Lucky, tell us more about the association.
Well, the association is made up of a mixture of independent facilities as well as shops that are under program or contract with insurance companies. We also have vendor members who provide services to the association, either through materials, parts, or services such as ADAS calibration, things of that nature. Our main goal is to do what we can to protect consumers, and in the process, we're also benefiting our members. Because I'm fond of saying that if the vehicle owner is being handled properly through the claims process, then the body shop is as well. And as long as we're able to properly repair the vehicle using the correct methods and be properly reimbursed to do so, everybody is made safe in that process. Because once we touch a vehicle, the liability is ours until that vehicle ends up in a crusher.
Interesting. I didn't expect we were going to talk about a crusher today.
Well, it's a cradle to grave mentality, and Matt, when he's repairing a vehicle and specifies how it needs to be done, when an insurer may or may not want to pay for a particular procedure, Matt has the decision that from a liability standpoint, he has to do that and somebody has to pay for it. And that's what it's coming down to, is being able to be properly reimbursed and do proper repairs so that everybody is protected and repairs are made safely.
All right, we're going to take our first break right here, just about a minute. Everybody will be back with Lucky and Matt right after this.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Bestian Wealth Management is family-owned for 2 generations. They take pride in thoughtful financial planning and wealth management with a family feel for your closely held family business. Bestian Wealth Management focuses on deep planning, integrating your business planning with personal. They will help put your money to work and your mind at ease. Go to BestianWealthManagement.com for more information. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor. Join the Bestian family and let our family advise your family. That's BestianWealthManagement.com for your complimentary initial consultation.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with Lucky Papageorg, Executive Director of Mass Auto Body Association, and Matthew Ciaschini. I'm still impressed that I can say that, of the Mass President of and on the board of directors. Tell us, actually, Lucky, a couple more questions real quick before we get into the issues.
Sure.
I understand you're on the road a bit. You go out to shops a lot.
I do.
Yeah. And not only to be a good advocate, but what are you learning when you're out with business owners?
Well, I see and hear from them all the time the struggles that they're facing as far as trying to entice young and new technicians and to keep the technicians that they have. The average age in our industry right now of technicians is well into the 50s, and shops their technicians are aging out. I also get to visit a lot of both technical schools and and talk to the students there and talk to them about what potential future they have in this industry, which is a great industry. It's one that there's a lot of pride in it, being able to take something that's been damaged and restore it back to its pre-loss as close as possible to its pre-loss condition.
And I noticed a name change as of January 1st of this year. What was behind the name change?
Years ago, probably 18 or 19 years ago, the association transitioned from the Massachusetts Auto Body Association, incorporating the other three associations in the state under the umbrella of the Alliance of Automotive Service Providers, which was a national association.
Okay.
That association, after 25 years, disbanded in December of 2024. We had been talking about going back to the Massachusetts Auto Body Association because the name says it all. It says exactly who we're representing. I find it a lot easier when I go into a collision facility to say who I'm representing in that fashion. So the fact that they went through that disbanding allowed us to transition back to the Massachusetts Auto Body Association, or MABA as we call ourselves.
All right. So why are you guys so passionate about advocating for the mass auto body industry?
Well, I can say for me, it's pretty easy. It's my industry.
Yeah.
It's what I take pride in. It's what we do every day.
Yeah.
But I would say, it goes back to, when I first went to the meetings, and we were a really small business, and I think at the time it was a guy I can call a friend now, and Rick Starbird, who was the president of the AASP at the time. And he has a shop in Revere, Rick's Collision. And I remember like somebody standing up, somebody advocating for everyone in the room, talking about getting together, talking about what you need to do in order to better your business. That we're not there for the insurers. We're there for the customers that come in the door to repair their cars. It's all about that kind of, we're on a business podcast, and this is like trying to bring to an industry that somehow has been beaten down over the years to not understand anymore that they are a business. And that, like, just because the insurers say that they're going to pay you something or not pay you something doesn't mean that that's how you should run your business. I think it's really important, and Lucky can also dovetail on this, that this is where we're at now, is trying to bring an independence to the people that are operating these businesses in Massachusetts and say, we know the labor rate's unfair. We've got to do something about it. We're the ones that are doing something about it.
Lucky, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think part of my passion comes from the David and Goliath mentality. I've always been on David's side, not just because he won, but I've always been for the little guy. And the issue within the collision repair industry, and that whole back and forth between collision repair and insurance companies is what drives me, and wanting to do what's right, mostly for the consumer. And that's one of the things about our association. We talk about protecting the consumer first, because that then dovetails into the collision repair industry being treated properly and being protected.
All right. So you guys have talked about insurance reimbursement rates. Why does that current system put drivers at risk? Matt,
do you want to hit it first?
Yeah, sure. Well, the there's not to go into an entire history lesson in the state of Massachusetts, but and Lucky could probably speak to this better than I can, but it goes back to a time in the 80s where they felt like costs were running away from the insurers and they needed to have some level of containment. And so it sort of starts there. I don't know if you want to go into that history, Luck. That's better for me.
Yeah. So back in 1988, there was the Insurance Reform Act of 1988. And as Matt indicated, it was a drive to try to contain costs and keep insurance premiums from skyrocketing, or in their mind, skyrocketing back then. So back in 1988, the average labor rate in Massachusetts was $30 an hour. Mm-hmm. Once the Reform Act went into play and they approached body shops to sign contracts, and the major concession on those contracts was a labor rate, the labor rate actually went from $30 to $28. And then part of the language in the policy also indicates that an insurer is only obligated to pay a rate across the board that they can achieve by setting a rate within a certain group of shops. So if they can get a certain number of shops to agree, and in this case it was $28 an hour, the labor rate rolled back to $30. Well, move forward to the year 2026, and we're looking at an average labor rate in Massachusetts right now of between $47 and $48 an hour, which, I think anybody with any reasonable sense and knowing what's going on with the cost of business, cost of living, and what it costs to just get a lawnmower or a bicycle repaired in this state, let alone, a vehicle at a mechanical shop, knows that is an unfair and unreasonable rate. And the suppression has been brought on by insurers. And regardless of how much we have appealed to them to try to raise the minimum reimbursement rate, they've been very resistant to that. They point at the fact that premiums will go up. That is their age-old argument. The insurance premiums have been going up regardless. And they have, the labor rate has not kept pace with what it has cost from 1990 to today to run a business, to be able to pay for insurance for your employees, to be able to provide them with a pay scale that entices people to come into the industry, especially young people. If you can get paid more to drive a truck for Amazon than you can to repair that Amazon truck, something is really wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the lack of technicians. There are voc tech schools, I'm sure, that teach auto body, and yet they're not going into the field, even though they have learned it.
Yep. And unfortunately, there's been a trend to removing the auto body factor or auto body component of a vocational school. Notoriously over the years, the auto body section of a vocational school was, basically a dumping ground. A lot of times they would put the problem student there, someone who could work with their hands. Nowadays, to work on today's vehicles, you have to be part chemist, you have to be part electrician. There's just so much going on in today's vehicles. There's more code, computer code in today's vehicles than in the rocket that went to the moon. To try to balance out getting paid what we're getting paid per hour versus other industries, it's a challenge to entice young folks into it in the vocational schools.
So for now, it seems like a shop owner problem, but I know it's not. What does the public need to know?
Well, the public needs to know that there is a price to be paid for keeping up with today's technology. The vehicles from the time that I get into this in 1990, early 90s to today, they're not the same vehicle. And unfortunately, insurers are trying to reimburse as if we're fixing those vehicles, not today's vehicles. Yeah. The technicians that are in the field today and that are trying to come into this field, the equipment that they have to purchase. Notoriously, the technician owns all of their equipment. Some shops do provide some equipment, especially the high-priced items like frame machines, things of that nature. But primarily, the technician is expected to have a very substantial toolbox and able to work on vehicles. And those tools vary from make to make as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not as easy as just having, a pair of vice grips, as an example, or some other tool. There's a lot of speciality.
Yeah, and I think also just the reason why this is more than a shop issue or more than a small business issue is that, these are real living, breathing humans that sit in that driver's seat and that have to go, 70 miles an hour down the highway and know that if something happens that car is going to perform properly for them. And the attempt to do so is at, $48 an hour seems just completely unreasonable and honestly bananas to most customers when you mention it to them. They almost don't understand how any shop operates at that. When it becomes a volume game, all of those things that businesses do, in the economy of scale to make this thing happen. That's not how it should be. It should be that, you figure out what your operating costs are and your labor rate is based on that. And then it has to be competitive in the market. We do not have that in our business.
I can also imagine, I don't want to be too negative here, but I can also imagine a small percentage of unscrupulous people who would not fix the car right because they're not getting paid to fix it right.
Unfortunately, we see that all too often. And, a vehicle, especially because most consumers don't understand their vehicles from the get-go, cosmetically, a vehicle can look near perfect after an accident. There's always something you can find that might be a little bit off. Unfortunately, it's what's going on behind the scenes that can have a tremendous negative effect, not only for that vehicle and the people who are in that vehicle, but everyone who is sharing the roads with them. It's not just because that vehicle was repaired. The people that are sharing the road also run into a jeopardy because, especially with ADAS and the fact that a lot of these vehicles have automatic braking systems, lane steering, things of that nature. If the repair isn't done properly, an airbag may not trigger correctly through no fault of that driver if they get hit. Or they're being steered unconsciously because we've all grown to rely on our ADAS systems. The Advanced Driver Assistance Systems is what ADAS stands for. We've all grown to rely on it in some part, that if when we get our vehicles back, it's not reacting the way it should be, it's jeopardizing everyone.
Is this limited to Massachusetts?
No, by no means. It's just that Massachusetts currently is the lowest paid state in the country when it comes to reimbursement rate. As I said, the average in Massachusetts is around between $47 and $48 an hour. The national average for the country is around $69. But, again, that's an average. There's highs above it. Massachusetts is the second highest state in the union in which to own and run a business based on our cost of living here in Mass.
Wow. Guys, we're going to take our second break, be about another minute. And viewers and listeners, we'll be back in just a minute with Lucky and Matt.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Bestian Wealth Management is family-owned for 2 generations. They take pride in thoughtful financial planning and wealth management with a family feel for your closely held family business. Bestian Wealth Management focuses on deep planning, integrating your business planning with personal. They will help put your money to work and your mind at ease. Go to BestianWealthManagement.com for more information. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor. Join the Bestian family and let our family advise your family. That's BestianWealthManagement.com for your complimentary initial consultation.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to yp.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
So we're back with Lucky and Matt. There's been a trend of businesses closing, auto body businesses closing, right? What does that look like?
Well, there has been a drop off in the number of businesses, collision repair businesses in Massachusetts over the last 10, 15 years. And a lot of it has to do with the lack of technicians as far as drawing new technicians into the business, the lack of a return on an investment. People look to grow their business, and unfortunately it's a real challenge, as you know. And again, we don't want to just harp on the labor rate, but there's a lot of challenges in the industry, environmental controls, things of that nature that we have to contend with, that a lot of people, they'd rather not have to deal with that. So when it comes to aging out, not only the technicians, but the shop owners are too. And if you don't have a business that you're able to either pass on or sell because it has value to it, the option is to basically close down. And the long-term effect on that is, longer waits for consumers that have accidents. There aren't as many choices in their particular area to get a vehicle properly repaired.
So what is the solution? Probably not an easy answer, but I mean, you guys have a plan, right?
I wish I had a magic wand.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what we're doing right now, which is educating the consumer as to what they need to understand when it comes to collision repair. It's an adversarial situation between the collision repair facility and the insurance industry. They're trying to pay as little as possible. The collision repair facility wants to make sure that they're repairing the vehicle properly. The consumer needs to understand, in my mind, who they should be allying with. And they cannot afford to let the insurance industry basically brainwash them into thinking that it's just a matter of a body shop trying to just make more money. And they're notorious for saying that. They don't say we want to keep more money for themselves. They want to say that we're just trying to make more money. And that, that we're over repairing vehicles is a common quote by insurance companies. Matt will tell you that to properly research a vehicle to fix it according to the OEM specifications today could take hours of research alone, because those techniques can change from one day to the next on the very same vehicle. He has to be able to document everything that was the proper repair procedure at the time he was repairing that specific vehicle, not a Toyota 3 weeks ago doing the same thing today. He has to relook everything up, make sure he's doing everything correctly. That's something Matt could probably speak a little bit more to.
Yeah, and it's constantly changing. We've seen vehicles that didn't change model wise, but have changed a procedure for changed something for one procedure dozens of times. So you could look something up one day, and a week later, that procedure has changed just based on whatever engineer has said, no, we thought we had it. Now we need to do this. And, again, at $48 an hour, it sounds pretty daunting, because it is.
So I know you guys lobby the State House, the governor, I'm imagining the legislature. In fact, you've got Brian Bernard, I'll give him a shout out, Total Care Accident Repair in Raynham, as a legislative rep. What have those efforts looked like, and are you winning? What does it look like?
It depends on your definition of winning, I guess. We're definitely making headway. We've done a great deal of had a great deal of discussion with the legislatures, with the regulators, such as the Commissioner of Insurance. Is a new insurance commissioner who's been in place now for a little over a year. And, our goal is to have them understand what it is that we contend with in our businesses, either through shop visits, which are very much eye-opening when it comes to what a legislator may have thought is going on in a collision repair facility versus what actually goes on. And what
you got to talk to the ones that have had repairs.
Well,
right?
that's something that Matt can tell you about.
Yeah, and there are some. My local senator's been here in my facility, and she actually has been forced to pay a bill because the insurer didn't fully reimburse her. And she's been an advocate and great. I'll leave her name out of it because I don't know if she wants to be named, but
sure.
This is a constant conversation that we have. They understand because they're consumers too. But we have to have this conversation holistically with our customers. I think that's not just legislation. That, again, harkening back to how does a business run, but also do the thing for the consumer all the time. What we need to do is educate them. So if you can tell a customer, we have to do A through Z to your vehicle because you own a Toyota, this is what Toyota says we have to do to it. Your insurer doesn't want to pay for 4 or 5 of these things. Do you want us to do them to the car because we feel we have to do them to the car? If there is something additional, you may have a balance. And then as long as that customer agrees, they can advocate for themselves to their insurer. We can continue to advocate for them to get the proper repair. But I think that's part of the education of what MABA's trying to do, is explain to all of the shops in our state that, we can't just keep going along the same way we've been going, expect a different result.
I don't know if you'd know this number, but is there any kind of success rate when a customer complains, advocates for themselves to the insurance company?
I would say more times than not. I couldn't give you an exact number, but more times than not, the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah.
So the insurance industry, as much as Matt may argue for a particular point and be told no and has to balance bill a customer for whatever that procedure was, in more cases than not, they're being reimbursed because the consumer is armed with the right information by a shop like Matt. They'll provide them that information. And the insurance companies don't want to lose a customer. They're just banking on somebody not challenging them. And, that goes the same thing with collision repair shops. Far too many repair shops are not willing to put in that extra effort. And that's one of the things that we try to help our membership do is learn how to advocate for their customers and for themselves.
I think it's important, Kevin, not to be as serious as this example, but the medical industry and our industry, they're both reimbursed mostly by insurers. People do almost never balk at a bill that comes in the mail from a doctor. But for some reason, our industry has been so beaten down that people don't want to pay an extra dime because they feel their car insurance should be covering everything. We would never allow an insurer in the middle of a surgery to say, no, don't cut there. No, don't take that out.
Yeah.
But we allow it in our industry.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's a good analogy. So consumers' worry, my guess, is that higher reimbursement rates would, as one of you suggested, would increase premiums. Is that true?
It will, but it's a matter of by how much. I mean, I think that a quick study had been done that if the labor rate went up $10 an hour, should have zero or no effect on the actual premium dollars. A $25 to $30 increase in labor rate might have a $10 or $20 increase on a particular premium, because we're also not talking about the entire premium.
Right.
The insurance companies are great at numbers and that whole issue about how to portray numbers. They'll tell you that it will make the insurance premiums will increase by 20%. Well, somebody will look at their $1,500 or $2,000 premium from last year and go, oh my God, that's a huge figure. Well, they're talking about the collision portion of that 2,000, which is a minimal amount. The overwhelming degree or component of your insurance premium is medical and legal. It's not the collision portion. And that's something that people don't realize. We're made to be the bad boys in the equation when we're not. It's all the lawsuits and the physical issues that come out of accidents. And that's a key component too, is that the technology changes that have been driven are being driven by the insurance industry to help minimize not accidents necessarily, but the amount of soft tissue damage that transpires in a collision loss, because that's where they're really feeling the pain on their end when it comes to having to settle a lawsuit, pay for extended medical care and things of that nature. It's not the collision aspect of it. So technology like the advanced driver assistance systems, accident avoidance, airbags, seat belts, all of those items that they don't even want to pay for safety checks on after a loss, or have them properly scanned after a loss to make sure they're functioning properly. They don't want to pay adequately for that. And again, we alluded to it earlier. There's a lot of shops that are just saying, okay, it looks good on the outside. We'll keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't get into an accident. And, proper and safe repairs, as our campaign is saying, is no accident. It takes a great deal of diligence on the part of collision repairers, their technicians, to make sure that they are properly repairing the vehicles.
All right. So what if nothing changes? What if 10 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, there's no change? What does that mean for the consumer? What does that mean for the shop owner?
Well, I think it could be very much like what we see in a lot of industry. Is you're going to see the biggest of players come in that can sustain low reimbursement through consolidation, and you'll have less and less places to fix your car. They will have a harder and harder time getting people to work and be able to repair a car.
Yeah.
And I think we will slowly get into a very impersonal model on how people fix their cars. There may be the day where you go to a kiosk, you drop your keys in a box, and they call you 2 weeks later when that thing is supposedly done, and you come and pick it up and you don't know anything about what happened in between. A business like mine needs to stay on top of the customer. We have a policy here where we update everyone every 48 hours, because a car could be here for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
If you have a major collision, procurement of parts, and also trying to work with the insurer for our customer at the same time. People aren't just like accepting these major repairs and writing checks. We always want to advocate for the customer as much as possible and get things reimbursed. But I don't know. I think it would be, I would liken it to the medical industry again. I'm sorry, I always go back to that because I don't want to make humans into cars.
Yeah.
But what we have to look at is, do you have a small hometown doctor that you go to, Kevin? Or do you go to a big facility where you're a number? You feel like you got to pull the deli number and you go in and
it depends on what I'm going there for. The primary care?
Yes.
Knows me well, knows my wife well. Everybody else, not really.
Yeah. So we see medical going that way. We don't want collision to go that way. You don't want to lose your local mechanic either, but at least that mechanic can name their price. They can say hey, my operating costs are this, so my labor rate is that. When we're dealing with a reimbursement rate, it's being forced upon us.
Right. And that's something that the consumer has to understand, Kevin, is that's exactly the terminology that needs to be used by the insurance company. This is the amount we're willing to reimburse. But what they try to do is convince the consumer, the vehicle owner, that that's the labor rate that the body shop should be charging, that's all that it's worth. And anyone that you sit down and explain it to, as Matt indicated, when they come in with an estimate, if you take the time and show them that of that $8,000 repair, this amount of it is my labor. The rest of it is parts, materials, services that have to be done on top of, like the ADAS checking and scanning and pre-scanning and post-scanning and calibration. That the labor rate is such a small component of that, an increase should have a minimal effect on the premium, but have a major effect on our businesses being able to bring in new technicians, to continue proper training, to stay current with the equipment and everything that is made necessary to repair today's vehicles.
So is this a legislative solution as you guys see it?
It's something that we it should be just like any other business. We should be able to set our rates, just like we allude to mechanics, right? They set their rate. It's what the market will bear. It's what they're able to promote as far as their expertise and why they should be selected in the repair process. With insurance having that ability to suppress it, we've turned to legislation. We've had no choice to. We've had two commissions going all the way back to 2008. We just finished a labor rate advisory board. All three of those indicated that the labor rate needed to be significantly increased in order to keep pace with what's been going on in our industry. And, that's now been presented to legislators. It's been presented to the Commissioner of Insurance. It's been presented to the AG's office. And where our hopes are that they will take steps, because the insurance industry has proven that they absolutely will not. And the only people that really get hurt are the vehicle owners, paying thousands of dollars in their premiums and not getting what they should be in return. Yeah,
Matt, if I'm you, I'm a business owner. If I'm you, I need to get paid what I'm worth. And so if that means the customer has a bill, which to your point, the good shops will tell them that up front and they get to opt in for that. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to run my business. So
Absolutely.
I can, have my standard of living. It's not, it's a business. It's supposed to make a profit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's your employee's standard of living too.
Right.
I look around, I have family, here. This is not just a family owned business, but, I have guys that have worked for me for 15 years and they are like family, and I want to be able to increase their pay like a person should be increased as they go along, and maybe even outpace the CPI. That would be amazing, right? You get somebody that is worth the money. They're an expert in what they do. They could go into any field working with their hands and be an ace and do it unquestionably, because this is an extremely, extremely hard discipline.
We are out of time. The last part of this is not the last part, but it was inherent, but I wanted to emphasize it. More auto body shops need to join the association, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely. It's I have a great little diagram that I show of a school of fish in the shape of shaping themselves into a big fish,
nice.
eating a shark.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. It's, we have to join hands. There's not, we need to look at each other as colleagues. We've been too long been taught to look at each other as competitors.
Yeah.
And we all have a common goal, and that's to do what's right for our customers, and thereby, making our businesses better.
All right. So we want people to reach out. Matt, why should they reach out to you? There's your information's gone across several times in the crawl, but give them your contact info one more time.
Sure. You can just reach out to me through my website, fulltiltautobody.com.
Okay.
Email me at info, or email me at my email, fulltilt.matthew@gmail.com. I'm here for advice. I'm here for the reason why you should join the association.
Yeah.
I believe in it wholeheartedly. I wouldn't be the president if I didn't. And Lucky's here working hard for our members. So once you become a member, you have him right behind you with all the advice that you possibly could need on how to succeed as a business, but also how to succeed as a person in this industry, because it really comes down to how do you do it and be able to sleep well at night and feel good about what you do.
Excellent.
And that's really important to me. I know it's really important to Luck, and that's how we do things.
So Lucky, share your info one more time.
Sure. It's the Massachusetts Auto Body Association. You can reach us at massautobody.org. Our website has a lot of consumer information on it. There is a map of the state on there with all of our current members listed that they can refer to. You can always call our main office number, 617-574-0741. We're here to help consumers and body shops alike. We get calls all the time from consumers that feel that they've been wronged either by the insurance industry and sometimes the body shops. So,
well, guys, thank you for being here, and thank you for viewers and listeners for being attached to the program. Come back next week, viewers and listeners, Monday, February 23rd. We'll do it all over again. Matt, Lucky, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Kevin.
You for the opportunity, Kevin. Appreciate it.
You bet.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.